Welcome to the Business Zone at the Community Bank of Elmhurst. I'm Ken Bartels, Senior Vice President and Director at CBE, and we are here this morning for the 24th Annual State of Our City Address and an annual report from the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce. The city and the Chamber co-sponsor this event. CBE has been host since the year 2000. This morning, however, is obviously a little different. We are virtual due to COVID-19 restrictions. So, little audience, no breakfast, no personal interactions. Masked and social distanced, we're on a live stream YouTube platform, but very happy to be with you. Our featured speaker, Mayor Morley, will in a few minutes be making his 8th State of Our City address and his final one, as he is not seeking a third term as mayor, with city elections coming up this coming April. First, however, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the President and CEO of the Community Bank of Elmhurst, Rich Reichert.
Good morning. On behalf of the employees and directors of Community Bank of Elmhurst, I'd like to welcome you to the 2021 Mayor's State of Our City Address. So this is the 22nd time that the State of Our City Address has been held at Community Bank of Elmhurst, but the first time it's been held virtually. You know, wow, when I stood here last January 16th, I never imagined what would happen between then and now. What happened in our community, our state, our nation, and our world. I personally first read about coronavirus in January of last year, in fact, late January. Of course, there were early reports about people from other countries wearing masks everywhere, and there were the inevitable jokes about the virus and the adult beverage of the same name. So people were really not taking it seriously. In fact, by the end of February, most were not very concerned. But that would change very rapidly as March rolled in. I have never been so proud of our employees and of our board of directors as I have been this past year. Without looking back, they continued to serve our community that we all love while finding ways to keep our customers and themselves safe. When Congress appropriated billions to fund Small Business Administration PPP loans, there was much uncertainty about how these loans would get in the hands of our local businesses and whether or not the funds would run out. There was a lot of well-meaning speculation packaged as fact, sent out by accountants, consultants, and anyone with a platform and credibility. Our employees worked tirelessly to get the latest guidance from the Treasury and the SBA and communicate factual information to our customers. Our phones were ringing as fast as we could answer them. Community Bank stepped up and funded more than 250 SBA PPP loans totaling nearly $24 million. And we stand ready to help our customers and our community with the upcoming round of PPP loans, and the SBA assures us this time the funds will not run out. Also, I have never been so proud of our community. Of course, we are all grateful for our local medical workers, not the least of which is Elmhurst Memorial Hospital. These medical workers and first responders continue to serve us selflessly, putting themselves in harm's way with a virus we knew very little about in the early days. We will be forever grateful to those folks. Countless others found ways to help as well, even if they couldn't be there in the ambulances and the hospital rooms. There was Brian Costello, who played his bagpipes each evening in the backyard for all who could hear as a sign of hope, support, and solidarity. There were Paul and Colleen Kelty, who through their City Center UPS store printed signs of support for our healthcare workers and our city workers, most of which were considered essential workers. There was Market Table that prepared thousands of meals to feed tired stressed, and overworked Elmhurst Memorial Hospital staff in the early weeks and months of the pandemic. And there was Sarah Vanderhayden of the Elmhurst Public Library, who found ways to 3D print parts of much-needed face shields used by medical professionals caring for COVID patients. These are just a few examples of how our community came together and grew stronger as we found ways to help where we could. Of course, our city government did more than its fair share to help as well. Manager Grabowski, with direction from Mayor Morley and our city council, made sure his staff was working to help residents and businesses get the latest information on safe practices and financial relief. I wish you could all be here in person. I can't wait to see your faces and shake your hands in person. I appreciate all you do for Elmhurst. I wish all of you, your families, your coworkers, and your friends a prosperous, safe, and peaceful 2021. Thank you.
I'm now very pleased to introduce to you Mr. John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for his annual report.
Thank you, Ken, and good morning, everybody out there in YouTube land. First, let me thank Elmhurst Mayor Steve Morley. 8 great years, 2 terms as our mayor, and service before that, multiple terms as a city council member. We're going to miss him and wish him the best in whatever he decides to do. By the way, his business is a chamber member, so we expect to see him at chamber events regardless. So with this being said, my annual State of our Chamber address, this is an abbreviated version. The extended version is available on the homepage of the Chamber's website, elmhurstchamber.org, or you can just call the Chamber and we'll provide you with the full version of State of our Chamber. Quite simply, the coronavirus pandemic of 2020 ranks as the most challenging of times over my 21-year tenure as the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industries President and CEO, and 3 decades of Chamber service. More so than even the Great Recession, or even the 9/11 terrorist attacks, which unfolded while our board of directors were attending their regular monthly meeting right here at Community Bank in this room. Speaking for both the Elmhurst Chamber and myself, we feel blessed to be relatively healthy, especially when so many businesses and individuals have not survived this economic and medical crisis. Our chamber has kept its doors open for business during regular office hours throughout the pandemic, and no full-time or part-time staff members were fired or furloughed. By comparison, some 25 local chambers within my West Suburban Chamber of Commerce Executives peer group determined it was necessary to cut staff and close their offices starting as early as last spring, and many of them are still operating short on staff and for limited office hours. Since the distressing depth of the virus first revealed itself, our chamber has advocated on our members' behalf to assure that governmental agencies and elected officials at all levels understand the economic damage that COVID-19 and related public policy restrictions have inflicted on the Elmhurst business community, and not just for our members. Conversely, our chamber has both supported the efforts of and shared vital information from governmental agencies and business organizations at all levels. In fulfilling our chamber's role as a business educator, ECCI members have consistently received email updates on financial assistance programs available to small businesses and not-for-profit organizations. That vital information was also uploaded to our chamber's website homepage and shared community-wide via Facebook and Twitter social media posts. Developed last March, ECCI's special Dine Out from Home website page has constantly marketed some 90 Elmhurst restaurants and bars, which are open for business via walk-in takeout, curbside pickup, drive-through, and/or delivery options for patrons during Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's multiple pandemic-related bans on indoor dining. Also, our chamber advertised Dine Out from Home statewide as part of last April's Illinois Love Local campaign, organized through the Illinois Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, as well as in conjunction with the City of Elmhurst's with the city's Elmhurst Loves Local contest that ran throughout December. During the past 10 months, our chamber waived annual and monthly dues payments for nearly 10% of our membership, while also sharing news about the good works of ECCI members and promoting the importance of local shopping and dining in numerous Facebook and Twitter posts. When a midsummer window of opportunity cracked open, our chamber was the only WCCE member to resume in-person monthly networking events, safely conducting outdoor membership breakfasts and business after hours for up to 50 members throughout that third quarter. Against all odds, but compliant in the face of mounting state-mandated restrictions, our chamber served as an organizing partner of the October 30 inaugural Nashville Songwriter Fundraiser, which netted more than $13,000 for the benefit of Elmhurst American Legion THB Post 187. In the midst of the pandemic, our chamber collaborated with the City of Elmhurst Everyone Counts Elmhurst Committee to promote resident participation in the 2020 U.S. Census. As of the October 15 deadline, 84.3% of Elmhurst households self-responded, a higher rate than in 2010. And that's compared to 80.8% for DuPage County and 71.4% statewide. The decennial census provides the federal government with population data used to appropriate some $70 billion annually in state, county, local funding for public education, transportation infrastructure, and health care programs, worth an estimated $180 per resident here in Elmhurst. Given that only 27 new members and a half dozen other members reactivated with our chamber in 2020, our year-end membership number fell from 2019's count of 550 down to 477, the lowest total since 2000, the first year I took over. The vast majority of member inactivations came as a direct result of COVID-19's financial impact on their business or not-for-profit operation. As the nation's economy starts to recover, I am optimistic that at least 50% of those 100 plus lost could rejoin our chamber before this year's end. Aside from the loss of some $50,000 in membership dues, our chamber also endured non-dues revenue losses from the pandemic-caused cancellation of multiple fundraising programs and special events. The recently enacted Emergency Coronavirus Relief Fund appropriates $900 billion in federal monies for small businesses and not-for-profits, including the long overdue expansion of Paycheck Protection Program forgivable loan eligibility to chambers of commerce, business and trade associations, and other 501c6 not-for-profits. Our chamber anticipates eligibility for some $40,000 in PPP funding, which I am confident will qualify as forgivable as payroll and operational expenses. Our chamber has received both a federal $100,100 economic injury disaster loan emergency grant and a forgivable $3,000 EIDL emergency grant through the U.S. Small Business Administration, and a forgivable $15,000 County of DuPage funded Reinvest DuPage grant through Choose DuPage. However, ECCI's application with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity for a Round 2 business interruption grant was declined due to a lack of available funding. December marked the successful culmination of a year-long process through which the ECCI Centennial Celebration NFP secured tax-exempt status with the Internal Revenue Service as a 501c3 not-for-profit organization. Our December-long Giving Tuesday appeal generated $6,000 in new donations to support the Ralph P. Pachanio Student Internship Endowment at Elmhurst University, the ECCI Civic Hall of Fame Public Memorial, destined for the new Metro train station in downtown Elmhurst, and our Second Century Fund. As I speak, some 19,200 copies of the 2021 Elmhurst Community Directory are beginning their every-door direct mail delivery via the Elmhurst Post Office to residential, business, and post office box addresses across Elmhurst. This directory also will be distributed in our chamber's new resident greeter tote program, available at City Hall, Elmhurst Public Library, and select locations, and accessible online at issuu.com. This January's scheduled 102nd Annual ECCI Awards Gala has been postponed until April at the earliest and will likely be rebooked for July as a mid-year celebration. That being said, I want to publicly announce for the first time and congratulate our 2020 business and individual honorees as follows. The A.J. Tachitaronis Business of the Year is Edward Elmhurst Health and Elmhurst Hospital, for obvious reasons. The Ambassador of the Year is Betsy Donofrio of Inland Home Mortgage. The Chairman's Award recipient is yours truly, John Quigley. I don't know what our chairman was thinking. And the ECCI Civic Hall of Fame inductees will be Scott and Charity Algram, formerly of Algram Funeral Home. Finally, I would have preferred that it not take a worldwide healthcare pandemic and economic crisis to validate the indispensable role that our chamber plays within the Elmhurst community. Legendary University of Notre Dame football coach and not Animal House's John Bluto Blutarski is the one credited with coining an iconic American proverb, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And I can assure you that when the going got tough in 2020, the Elmhurst Chamber never once stopped going. Thank you.
Now I'm pleased to welcome to the podium, forgot that. Now I'm pleased to welcome to the podium Desiree Chen, who this year is serving as chairman of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry Board of Directors.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, I'd like to thank you for joining us for the Mayor's State of Our City address this morning. And thank you, John, for your report and for the Chamber's tireless work this past year in providing valuable information, resources, and support to the Elmhurst businesses and organizations in town. I'm honored to be serving as the Chamber's board chair this year. It's the same year that Elmhurst University, where I've been fortunate to have worked for the past 11 years, will celebrate its 150th anniversary. And the university is proud to be a member of organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, which has been serving the Elmhurst business community for more than 100 years. The long history of Elmhurst University, the Chamber of Commerce, and the city itself remind me how resilient this community truly is. We're all looking forward to a strong year ahead and to more joy and togetherness very soon. Thank you. Ken?
As mentioned earlier, Mayor Steve Morley is not seeking re-election in 2021. This morning, then, provides an opportunity for him to share his thoughts on the most challenging year of 2020 and also to reflect on some of his time in office. My introduction of him is straightforward and sincere in saying that Elmhurst respects his service, appreciates his dedication, values his insights, and will miss his leadership and vision. It is a privilege to introduce the Mayor of Elmhurst, the Honorable Steve Morley.
Thank you, Ken, for that introduction. Good morning. I'd like to welcome you all to our State of the City 2021. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Community Bank of Elmhurst for giving me this opportunity to bring all of you up to speed on the highlights of 2020 and our plans for 2021. Elmhurst has about 300 full-time and part-time employees, 10 departments. In addition, 17 elected officials, 4 committees, 16 commissions and boards, and over 140 volunteers, and an additional 40 volunteers at the library and Elmhurst History Museum. To all of you who work hard to make Elmhurst the great city that it is, I want to say thank you. It's tough to put into words what we as a city went through in 2020, and I'm proud of all of the hard work that was done to continue to provide services to the residents of Elmhurst during this most difficult year. Not only did Elmhurst survive, but I believe we are stronger than ever. 2020 started out relatively normal enough, but there were hints in January and February of what was to come. In early March, we got a hint of what was going to happen. We started getting phone calls about COVID. In fact, I was in my office with City Manager Jim Grabowski on a Thursday night. We were having a commissioner event, a commissioner appreciation event. Those 16 boards and commissions that I mentioned, we get together once a year to say thank you and allow the committees to intermingle, share ideas, and it's also a time where I award the Darrell Whistler Community Service Award. It's a mayor's award that I give to somebody, or that the mayor and the future mayor will give to somebody who has gone above and beyond in their service to Elmhurst. Our 2020 recipient was Susan Rose. Susan was an alderman for 16 years, and she's currently the chairman of our Zoning and Planning Commission. I regret to say that Susan still has not received her award, but that was just the beginning of what we were facing. The next week, the Elmhurst City Council gave me, the mayor of Elmhurst, executive authority as it related to COVID events. What that means is that I could write legislation with the stroke of a pen. Now, that's something that I took very serious and did not take lightly. What normally happens in our legislative process is as something's presented to council, it's referred to a committee. That committee will take 2 or 3 meetings to look at it, send a report to council, and then the council will vote on their report. Subsequently after that, 2 weeks later, we'll vote on an ordinance or a resolution. That can take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. And in this COVID world, we did not have the time to necessarily follow all of those steps if our residents or our businesses were going to be impacted. So the city council gave me executive authority, and really what it allows me to do in working with city staff and our city attorney is to react to executive orders that get sent down either from the federal government or at the state level. This was just the beginning of the city's ongoing response to the pandemic. To date, Elmhurst has had over 3,300 confirmed cases of COVID. We are so fortunate to have world-class health care in our very backyard with Elmhurst Hospital. We are forever grateful for their service and cannot begin to repay what they have provided for us in the last year. Much like the hospital, though, the city of Elmhurst doesn't close either. After I was given executive authority, I issued my first executive order on March 23rd. Seems like over a year ago. This was a simple executive order. It allowed for temporary daycare. We were working with the hospital. They had concerns that their staff was going to be overworked and they were going to need health care for their kids, whether or not their current health care providers were going to be closed down because of COVID or whether they were going to be closed due to timing. So we worked to issue to create a path for temporary daycare if that were needed. In addition, we suspended late fees on water bills and suspended service interruption for anybody who was late with their water bills. Just simple stuff like that that most likely would have been approved by council, but we didn't have 6 or 8 weeks to do it. We also allowed businesses to sell packaged alcohol for off-site consumption. It's just one of the many things that we did in our attempt to help our business community survive during this pandemic. You'll notice some of the other executive orders that were issued, including how our sidewalk cafes were handled with our restaurants. We allowed our restaurants to expand not only in front of their building, but side to side after 5 o'clock. We also eliminated the requirement for them to have barriers around their tables, which allowed them to put more seats out front, and we also allowed them to expand into parking spaces if there were some in front of their businesses. Again, everything we could do to help our businesses survive. We also suspended various business license and registration fees. We had the unfortunate coincidence in October where we had just sent out a round of billing to all our businesses for licenses and some liquor licenses and business fees, and those bills showed up on the desks of our small businesses the day that J.B. Pritzker shut down our restaurants in October. So I took the opportunity to suspend collection of all of those immediately and worked with our community development folks to understand that we would not be expected, our restaurants and our businesses, to pay for license fees when they were closed down by the government. The other thing that I'm proud to say is that with these executive orders, while I did it in consultation with many of the elected officials, the city manager, city staff, and our city attorney, we also took the opportunity for every executive order to run them through our normal process. So we sent them through to council, committee, and back up to council for vote. So these executive orders lagged about 6 to 8 weeks, but I'm happy to say that the city council has supported every single one of these executive orders to date. In 2020, as was mentioned, Elmhurst businesses received over $35 million in PPP loans. Over 1,000 local businesses took advantage of this situation. I personally want to thank the Community Bank of Elmhurst and Lakeside Bank for stepping up and helping our local businesses. We heard early on when PPP was proposed that a lot of our local businesses were being ignored by their larger banks. And I want to specifically thank the Community Bank of Elmhurst for not only reaching out to those businesses, they reached out to businesses they weren't necessarily customers at the time to make sure that these businesses had access to that money. 22 local businesses received funds through the Big Grant Program, a state program. An additional 122 businesses received grants from DuPage County, totaling $1.5 million. The city of Elmhurst was also very fortunate to receive CARES Act money. That's the Coronavirus Aid, Recovery, and Economic Security Act, or CARES Act. That's federal funding that was administered through DuPage County. We received $2.4 million, and that really helped us fill some budget caps that we knew we were facing. In addition to the pandemic this year, over the summer we had numerous peaceful protests. Elmhurst residents, friends, and neighbors exercised their right to free speech and assembly and gathered to show support for various causes. I want to thank all city staff members who were part of the efforts to keep everyone safe during these events. And it's as if 2020 wasn't difficult enough. 3 sitting aldermen chose to move out of state during this time. Now, they all had their personal reasons, and we wish them the best, but that did leave some gaps in our legislative group. So during these process, when there is a vacant seat, the mayor has it's the mayor's authority with advice and consent to appoint individuals to these open seats. I do what I call a roll call, where I announce at multiple meetings that there's an open seat. In addition, I work with our communication staff to issue a press release and encourage everybody who's eligible to apply for the job. We had 21 or 22 people apply for those 3 spots. It was my pleasure to interview all 21 people and find out what they thought about Elmhurst, why they wanted the job, and I was very happy that that many people decided to throw their hat in the ring. Alderman Kevin York in the 4th Ward moved out of town, and he's been replaced by Brian Cahill. Mark Sabatino in the 1st Ward moved, and he has been replaced by Jennifer Varimus. And finally, most recently, Norm Leader stepped down, and he has been replaced by Jacob Hill. I want to thank those 3 aldermen for all of their hard work to the city of Elmhurst, on behalf of the city of Elmhurst, and I want to thank the 3 new aldermen for throwing their hats in the ring and willing to roll up their sleeves and work during these difficult times. As events that affected the nation and state impacted our local economy and relative revenues, the Finance Department developed alternatives so the city could make educated and necessary decisions to maintain services and protect our finances. Putting in place a temporary hiring freeze and reducing overtime is just one of the things that we did. In addition, we cut programs that we knew would not be able to exist during the COVID pandemic, such as our trolley program and other community grant programs such as parade funding. We were also able to defer other plans to save money, including purchase of vehicles and other equipment. Probably the biggest thing that we did is that we suspended our annual paving program. The city of Elmhurst has approximately 100 miles of roads, and they run on about a 20-year cycle. So if you do the math, we have to replace about 5 miles worth of roads a year. Now that varies based on weather and based on our budget, so we will replace anywhere between 3 and 7 miles a year. That's our biggest rubber band in the budget. That's the thing that has the most flexibility when we're in trouble. We can shrink that spend. In preparation for the reduction of revenue because of COVID, we actually eliminated our replacement paving program for the year. We increased our patching because we wanted to keep our roads safe, but we took a year off of our paving. Before the pandemic even started, our finance department was looking into a financial trend analysis to figure out what we would need to do should we realize a significant loss of revenue. Part of the reason we were doing this even before the pandemic is because of the financial state of the state of Illinois. Springfield has been threatening for the last couple of years to withhold some of the income tax money that they have committed to send back to the cities, a commitment that was made well over 30 years ago, but when the state gets into budget problems, they have threatened to take some of that money. So I'm happy to say that our finance department was looking into options of what we would do if we had a reduction in revenue. We just happened to speed that up when COVID hit, but we were prepared to hit the ground running. We projected a shortfall of $6 to $9 million, but between budget cuts and the CARES Act, we were able to pay our bills, provide services to the residents of Elmhurst, and keep our fund balances high. We continue to maintain a AAA rating from Standard & Poor's, so if and when we need to do capital projects, we can issue GEO bonds and get the absolute lowest rate on the market. We are in the top 10% of Illinois with that rating. Our finance department also produced and passed our annual budget as required by law. We received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the 13th year in a row and a Certification of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 31st year. When I first got on the council in 2007, I was kind of surprised at the amount of planning that we did. And we were always seemed to be planning for a rainy day. We would always run exercises, disaster exercises. And within the first 2 years, I had a tough time understanding why we were investing that much resources, or those resources, to those types of exercises. But I can tell you this, in my 14 years as an elected official, I think we have applied almost every single one of those learnings, and we did so during this pandemic. So we've been planning for a rainy day since 2007, since I've been elected. Our fund balance at that time was about two-thirds of what it was, no, it was about one-third of what it was supposed to be, two-thirds short of what our policy says. Our fund balance, our general fund balance, which is our checking account, is supposed to be anywhere from 25 to 33% of our operating costs. In dollars, that means around $12 to $16 million. I'm happy to say that even with the pandemic at the end of 2020, our general fund balance is $16.2 million. In addition, we have a rainy day fund, or our emergency cash fund, and that is fully funded at $1 million. In addition to all this, we work with our finance department and our finance committee chair, chaired by Noel Toludo. She was adamant that we would not have a tax increase during this difficult year. We funded our pensions through a mild tax increase that was solely dedicated to pensions, but as it relates to city services, we kept taxes flat and still delivered the same services when revenue was down. The other thing that we did, and we have done since about 2010, is we have the ability to abate our bond payments. So when we issue bonds for capital projects, whether it's a project over at the over at the wastewater treatment facility, or a stormwater project, typically what we do is we'll issue a GEO bond. That comes with a 20-year term. And every year we have to pay that bond, make that bond payment, similar to you're paying your mortgage. We're very fortunate. While we have the ability to pass that payment on to the residents, we have abated those bond payments for the past 5 years and continue to do so this year. In 2020, the building department and the planning and zoning division processed more than 25 cases for conditional use, amendments, and variations. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the planning and zoning division implemented remote planning and zoning commission meetings. Our community development department issued over 3,200 permits with a total construction value in Elmhurst of $167 million in the year 2020. We performed over 10,000 inspections related to construction and have issued more than 60 new home permits in 2020, and we have a dozen under review. While construction has slowed, we do expect brisk construction activity to continue in the new year, both in residential and commercial properties. Continuing and upcoming projects include the McMaster Car Addition, which is 450,000 square feet, 195 North Addison, which is a 6-story condominium building that will come on in 2021. In addition, the Christopher Glass Company that joined Elmhurst on Industrial Drive about 2 years ago is already expanding. Lennar is building a 7-story apartment building with 212 units about a block west of Elmhurst City Hall. And Island Construction has plans to build 36 townhomes on Lake Street. The Opus project, a 54 $4 million transit-oriented development project, along with Lennar and 255 are completed. We made an effort to include transit-oriented development in our town because we felt that's where the future was, especially for our downtown. For our shops to survive in this world, they need density, and we also had a lack of housing for both young couples and empty nesters, and these three projects address that issue. We continue to benefit from transit-oriented development. We increase our market cap. We also have a vibrant downtown that keeps our mom and pop boutique shops open. Our schools also receive a benefit. Not only do they get an impact fee for every development that goes in, the nice thing about these transit-oriented development projects is they don't bring many kids into the schools. So the schools get a revenue bump, but they don't have a corresponding revenue resource drain on the other end. Our economic development staff initiated local response to the COVID-19 in helping our local businesses with outreach on a daily basis. They shared information, both federal, state, and regional guidelines, and assisted with programs that would help our businesses. They also worked to help expand our outdoor activities, including dining, fitness, waiting areas, and tents, just to mention a few. Our development staff also created and maintained a COVID-19 business support website and a restaurant support guide. They, in effect, took over the Explore Elmhurst Facebook page and shared an average of 25 posts a day, 7 days a week. Let's not forget that they also spearheaded our census in 2020, something that is so critical for federal funding that because it's based on the actual population that we have. So it was so critical that we counted everybody. In addition, they continued to administer 3 economic development incentive programs, our sign grants, retail grant program, and our facade program. They continue to assist businesses looking to operate within Elmhurst, locate site locations, and any and all related permitting that's required. In 2021, they expect to continue to seek and promote opportunities for business survival, stability, and growth during and beyond COVID-19 within the Elmhurst community. They will continue to implement our strategic plan for development, which includes an effort to highlight our business parks. We are hoping that we will be able to bring back some of our in-person events, including our commercial real estate forum, and our women in management forum. In the past 12 years, due to the hard work of these people, individuals, couples, and companies have invested over $1.1 million in the city of Elmhurst. Our train station continues to move forward. We are planning a virtual visioning workshop in February. This is going to give our residents an opportunity to give us feedback on how they want our train station to look. We're in the beginning phases of Phase 2 engineering. This will take approximately 2 years, and we anticipate construction on our new train station will be in 2023. It's so important, as hundreds of thousands of people go through our town every year on that train station. It's important that Elmhurst represents the town that it is. We estimate the cost for this new train station to be $26 million, but the good news is city staff, through their hard work, has located $22 million in grants, and it will be paid for with funding outside of Elmhurst. New businesses continue to thrive in Elmhurst. The Gaming Goat opened a new location yesterday, almost tripling their size. Market Table presents Smoked Barbecue. That's going to open this month. Effigy Salon has expanded. You know what, Jim? I will take that. Ming Chef is going to taking over the old Rainbow Restaurant. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Grabowski. Poke Burrito's opening this winter. Pardon me. Fire Barbecue is opening this summer. Dairy Queen is opening in March. Evoke Beauty Bar has expanded. I'm happy to say that the heartbeat of Elmhurst, if you've listened to me for the last 8 years, you know what the heartbeat of Elmhurst is. York Theater will be opening its doors on February 26th of this year. Very happy for the Willis family. We will be getting a new animal hospital on Butterfield Road. Pure Hockey is expanding, and the Elmhurst Downtown City Center has a vacancy rate of 3% at this time. It's hard for me to believe, but the city's overall vacancy rate has also decreased in the past year. It just shows how resilient Elmhurst is and what a desired community we are. Our Public Works Department completed over $20 million of improvements to our water treatment plant and other systems. They completed a 3-year hydrant renovation project. You will notice the hydrants, the fire hydrants around town have been painted. You will also notice that the caps or the tops have different colors. This is just another way for our firefighters to be more efficient. Not all fire hydrants are created equal, and it's a visual cue when the firefighters pull up. They know what fire hydrant they're pulling up to, they know what equipment they need, they know how much water that can push. It's just another way that they can be more efficient for the residents of Elmhurst. We completed over 6,000 feet of sanitary sewer lining and 500 feet of stormwater sewer lining. We completed nearly 100 T-linings to decrease the infiltration and inflow in our sanitary system. Parts of our sanitary and stormwater system are over 70 years old. And we have a process called slip lining where we actually blow a sock into a corroded pipe, and then it hardens and cures, and we create a pipe inside an old pipe. And it's about 1/8 of an inch thick, so we don't lose any volume, but it's a way to replace piping all over town and save our residents money. We've been doing that for years. In addition, the Public Works Department for the pandemic, in response to the pandemic, was the folks in charge of procuring those jersey barriers you saw downtown Elmhurst that allows our restaurants to expand into the street. And they also help assist with modifications to our workspace and public spaces at City Hall so residents of Elmhurst could come in and do business in a safe manner. The city continues to address stormwater issues. We have completed 12 stormwater projects equaling 120 acre feet. An acre foot is about 325,000 gallons. That's the number that we are shooting for. 121 acre feet is the mass of water that we have a problem with during a 100-year storm. These stormwater projects cost almost $45 million, but the good news is they protected $200 million in property from continued overland flooding. Last year we completed the Sailor Swain Villette project at the cost of almost $5 million, and it provided relief of over 7 acre feet and protected 90 homes during a 100-year flood. Residents also took advantage of our check valve program, our overhead sewer program, and our I&I program. These 3 programs provided storm relief to over 600 homes. Our Public Works Department received awards in the Excellence in Mitigation. Chris Dufert was named Collection System Manager of the Year, and we also received the 2020 Water Saver Award, just to name a few. We're going to continue in 2021 with our annual sanitary lining and our T-lining and manhole rehabilitation. We are also going to begin work on our College View stormwater project, which is at York High School, and our stormwater project at Jackson. We've already started some of the engineering. That's a result of an agreement that we have with District 205 that allows us to create stormwater storage on their sites. We also want to reinstitute our contract paving program, which is what we suspended and I mentioned earlier. We hope to get in 8 new miles of road this year. We will continue to analyze the stormwater needs of the city and prioritize when we can and where we can. We also will complete Phase 1 engineering for the Route 83 pedestrian bike overpass, the North York sidewalk under I-290, and the Butterfield intersection improvements. HR had their hands full this year with COVID, among other things, and it was their job to keep all of our workers informed and employed. We also negotiated 2 multi-year labor contracts with the police and fire union. IT was thrown for a loop with COVID and all of the remote access that was required, converting to telework and remote VPN access for city staff. They also converted all city council meetings and committee meetings to remote access using Zoom and YouTube Live. IT continues to support all staff electronically during this COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, IT, along with Public Works and Communications, installed our underpass signs. You may have noticed on either side of our underpass, we have what I would consider a tasteful underpass signs. We used to have banners that were put up, and these were kind of dangerous. We actually had to block off traffic and put workers on a bucket truck just to replace the banners. We now have signs that we can change remotely, interchangeably, change them at any time. In addition, we've used it for emergency communication during this year. The History Museum had to reinvent how they provided history to the residents of Elmhurst. They did manage to stage 3 major exhibits in 2020. On the Right Track by rail to Chicago and beyond, the Great Midwestern Road Trip, Frank Lloyd Wright Architecture of the Interior. That last one was cut short due to COVID. They also received 3 national and state awards for the exhibit Worlds of Wonder, Remembering Chicago's Amusement Parks. They also added to our award-winning By All Accounts exhibit and developed 9 Elmhurst History in Focus mini documentaries and are planning more for 2021. They created online programs such as Lessons from the School Marm and Story Time with the School Marm. They created new walking and biking tours and a community scavenger hunt to help engage families during these difficult times. In addition, they aided with the Prairie Restoration Project at the one-room schoolhouse led by Eagle Scout candidate Luke Lamort. All in all, they created online content and programs that reached more than 187,000 patrons in the year 2020. Their goals for 2021 is to stage 3 more major exhibits, continue with their weekly and online programming, and create lesson plans and programming for Elmhurst teachers and students. They are also going to create additional family-friendly walking, biking, and driving tours and history-themed scavenger hunts. This year, we will also celebrate the 20th anniversary of acquiring the Churchville one-room schoolhouse. And finally, we are all hoping for a return of the Elmhurst Heritage Foundation Elmhurst Craft Beer Fest when conditions permit. In 2020, the fire department responded to over 5,700 calls. From the onset, command staff had to adjust operations and institute guidelines to keep all personnel safe and able to respond to emergency incidents. Equipment such as disinfecting foggers, ultraviolet decontamination lights were purchased with grant funding to disinfect all apparatus and equipment that was used at the station on a daily basis. Ambulances were sanitized thoroughly before leaving the hospital, and we brought a 3rd ambulance online to help with overflow patients suffering from COVID. Firefighters developed virtual programs to stay in contact with our community. These included drive-by birthday parties, virtual station tours, and fire safety videos. Day-to-day operations changed significantly as firefighters and paramedics had to stay separated throughout the day to allow for social distancing, and temperatures were taken at the beginning and every shift, along with masks being worn. I mentioned disaster drills that were run that helped us combat this situation and identify new procedures that were implemented during these drills. Things such as the Villa Park and Elmhurst Fire Departments working together on response plans. You'll recall that we were redoing the bridge at the St. Charles Bridge by the old by Salt Creek, and just stuff like that that normally you wouldn't think of. That bridge was under repair at certain points. We couldn't get equipment across that bridge to service people should they need it, so we had to come up with a plan with Villa Park and Elmhurst working together. We also added a source capture system. This allows us to run our engines while they're inside the garage, but they're hooked up so the exhaust is aspirated to the outside, making it healthier for all of our firefighters. In addition, we replaced a new ambulance. We got a new ambulance in December, replacing an old one. The police department in 2020 handled nearly 42,000 calls. Police officers administered Narcan 6 times. This is a drug that they use to combat overdoses of heroin and opioids. I'm happy to say that we saved 5 victims that were overdosing. In addition, Elmhurst Police have just completed their 2nd year of ILEAP accreditation. Less than 5% of the police departments in the state of Illinois have this accreditation. They are reviewed for the highest standards and best practices of modern law enforcement. Last year, our officers received a total amount of training of almost 10,000 hours. This is 2.5 times the required amount for their job. They received training in civil rights, constitutional and proper use of law, enforcement authority, cultural competency, procedural justice, human rights, use of force, homicide investigation, mental health, sexual assault, domestic violence, and legal updates. The police department has also increased the use of our automatic license plate reader. This is our geofence that protects us. It allows us to track if there's been a crime in town and there's been a witness. We can track if and when that car came in and where they were going. We continue with our prescription drug box at the Elmhurst Police Department. We received almost 250 pounds this year. This brings our total since 2014 to over 2 tons of prescription drugs that aren't in our water system and aren't available for our kids to abuse. And finally, one thing I want to say with regard to our Elmhurst Police Department. During the summer, city staff and the police department really took a lot of heat from the public and from the media about things that they should be doing right or wrong, and I felt that was a little unjust since we couldn't identify anything that the Elmhurst Police Department had done wrong. However, as a result, we had a lot of questions about what type of training we do for our Elmhurst Police Department and how our Elmhurst Police Department operates. On September 29th, Chief Ruth, along with City Manager and myself, held an Elmhurst Police Department forum. It's an hour and a half long, and it's on Elmhurst TV. We have our own channel on YouTube. It's Elmhurst TV. Not only can you watch our committee meetings and our council meetings, but there's various other videos on there, including our Memorial Day parade or convoy that we had. In addition, I would encourage everybody to go and view that Elmhurst Police Department forum. It's about an hour and a half long. It's exceptional. One factoid I'm going to give you from that video. I mentioned before that Elmhurst Police Department had almost 42,000 interactions. They had 14 uses of force. 42,000 interactions with Elmhurst residents, and they had to use force 14 times. 99.9% of the time, our Elmhurst Police Department was able to diffuse a situation where they did not have to lay a hand on anybody. I also want to let people know that anytime there is a use of force, there is a report written and there is a 4-tier review process to make sure that it was done properly. They enjoy our full support. I know that I've given you a lot to think about today and a lot to talk about, but I can tell you I haven't covered half of it. I would encourage you to get informed and stay informed. Go to elmhurst.org, which is our website, for all the latest news from the city of Elmhurst, or follow us on our Facebook page. Cassandra Streff is in charge of our communications, and she does a fantastic job. I could not have done the job that we did in 2020 with the constant communication going out without her hard work. I encourage you not only to follow us on Facebook, sign up for Code Red, which are emergency alerts or texts, and visit exploreelmhurst.com. You can also sign up for news for non-emergency communications. As far as it relates to COVID, we will have links on our website, but I would also encourage you to go to the DuPage County Health Department website. They not only have statistics on COVID since they've been tracking it since March, they also have updates on vaccines, when they will be available, and what the criteria is and how to get a vaccine. Our community partners were busy. Elmhurst College officially became Elmhurst University on July 1st. Through hard work with staff, students, and faculty, they had a successful fall term. They tested over 2,800 tests and only had 29 positive cases. Elmhurst University ranks as the 3rd most innovative school in the Midwest, and the university is looking forward to celebrating its 150th year anniversary this year. The Elmhurst Park District celebrated their 100th anniversary last year and dedicated the first park in a long time, Centennial Park. It's the former Redeemer Center, which they purchased in 2019. In 2021, the Park District will work with the city to tear down the obsolete medical building that is adjacent to our underpass and expand the size of Gloss Park, providing much-needed green space for our downtown residents. Our library, in response to the COVID pandemic, reimagined many of their services, collections, and programming, making them virtual and more accessible. They also added parking lot Wi-Fi, so you literally can drive up and have a mobile office. The Library Board of Trustees approved a 0% increase in their levy, and it was unanimously approved. In 2021, the library hopes to smoothly and safely transition back to an in-person pre-pandemic service and programming models. Boy, isn't that optimistic. In conclusion, I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's a team effort. I'm just the one who gets to deliver the good news or sometimes gets to deliver the bad news. I do want to thank city staff for their exceptional work during 2020. Everybody went above and beyond. I never heard a complaint. Assistant City Manager Kopp and Aaron Jason did an unbelievable job with their team, keeping our businesses afloat and keeping them informed. I also, and if I miss anybody, please, I don't have enough time in the day to list all the people who deserve recognition. So I apologize for that. I also want to thank City Manager Jim Grabowski. City Manager and I have been working together now for 8 years, and I would say that during 2020, we averaged somewhere between 50 and 20 phone calls a week. I'm not sure if his wife is sick of it, but Jim is always one to answer the phone. And Elmhurst could not have survived and be in the condition it is without the hard work of Jim Grabowski. I want to thank my fellow officials, my fellow elected officials for their hard work, and I also want to thank the residents of Elmhurst. It has truly been humbling over the last 8 years to represent my hometown. I want to thank my family for their love and support and patience. As has been mentioned, this is my last speech. I will be turning over the reins the first week in May to the newly elected mayor. I've been asked numerous times what I will miss, and it's an easy answer. I'll miss the people that I get to work with. I'll miss the elected officials, I'll miss the residents, and I'll miss the staff. Nothing is more rewarding than working together to make Elmhurst a better place. And a final thank you to my wife, Nancy. I want to thank you for all your love and support over the last 14 years. I know it wasn't easy, and I couldn't have done it without you. God bless Elmhurst, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thanks to Rich and John and Desiree and, of course, Steve Morley, our mayor. As we enter 2021, let's all look forward and be optimistic and anticipate a bright year ahead. Good morning to each of you. Thank you for being with us.